President's decision to end the DACA program. Congressman, thank you for coming in.
Thanks for having me on.
So you have Jeff Sessions, the Attorney General, announcing that the administration is ending the DACA program. Then the President sends out this tweet last night. I'm sure you saw it, but for our viewers, Congress now has 6 months to legalize DACA, something the Obama administration was unable to do. If they can't, I will revisit this issue. What does he mean, revisit, Congressman?
Well, that implies, as I listened to that he'd back up and take another look to figure another way. I thought when I listened to his campaign promises, and I don't think it was any mistake on my part or the American people or the people that went to the polls and voted for Donald Trump, that he was going to end DACA. I expected it would happen January 20th, in that very busy day of signing all of the documents that could be brought in front of him. It's now 8 months into this, and now there's a 6-month extension. Every day, it's been a continuation of the constitutional violations of Barack Obama. And so a revisitation of this, Congress has refused to adopt the DACA policy over and over again. I brought the amendments multiple times, and with success in the House of Representatives. This isn't because Congress didn't act. Congress made a decision not to act. And so now that let this thing expire. I think that's what Jeff Sessions would prefer. If it's going to be 6 months, then let it be 6 months, but let it wind itself out and be done, because to reward lawbreakers just brings more lawbreakers, and it erodes the rule of law. And the Center for me on Immigration for 30 years.
On this issue, but on this issue of what the President, I mean, at the very least, it seems the President's kind of muddied the waters on exactly where he stands. Is he? Do you see that tweet when he says he will revisit it as going back on his commitment to terminate the program?
I think you will hear members of Congress today saying so, and they will try to exploit that to the maximum extent possible. I'm hearing today from people who are open borders, pro-amnesty, Democrats all for that. I don't know any Democrat that's for actual enforcement of existing immigration law, let alone adopting some more stringent immigration laws, even at the request of the President. But we have Republicans also that seize upon this because they're just intensively and hyperventilatingly delivering their virtue signal instead of adhering to their oath of office and the rule of law.
Right, but this is, I mean, isn't this on the President? Though this was an executive order, he could have just ended it, and now he's asking Congress for help. I mean, do you know where the President stands on Dreamers?
Well, at this point, we don't have a lot of public discussion on that. I have talked with him privately about it, and it's not quite as clear to me as I would like it be. But it looks to me like a good group of solid, principled conservatives that were established in the West Wing of the White House are now gone. And the voices of those who would be more open borders, pro-amnesty advocates seem to be prevailing in the White House. And I'm hopeful that what he's done now is stimulated a national debate, and the entire base for Donald Trump that voted for immigration enforcement and new immigration laws and to build a wall 2,000 miles long. I'm committed to all of that, and so are the vast majority of his base. And so I'm hopeful the base will rise up and say, we want to restore the rule of law, secure the borders, enforce domestically, and we can't be leading with amnesty as a means to try to get to a goal that runs contrary to the campaign promises and to the principles of the oath of office itself.
I'm confused. He might be surrounded by people. He might take their advice. That's why you have advisors. But it comes down to the President. So you don't know where the President stands on Dreamers at this point?
Well, I know what he said throughout the campaign, and I'm watching what's happened since then. He hasn't said that he wants to grant them amnesty, but he has said that he's going to end this program in 6 months. And so if that's what happens, and if Congress doesn't act, then it ends.
So they can be protected. What does that tell you?
I missed you. I'm sorry?
And he says he wants Congress to do something so Dreamers can be protected. What does that tell you?
Well, I think that's a little bit of a Solomon-esque maneuver. He cut the baby in half and threw it to the Congress to fight over. And I didn't want to see our Congress divided. Paul Ryan has said multiple times he would not bring a full repeal vote to the Obamacare, which, by the way, passed in every Congress except this one, because he doesn't want to divide our conference. Yet this will divide our conference. And so I think that it's now going to be a lot of pressure on leadership. What did you mean when you wouldn't let us vote for a full repeal of Obamacare, but you do want us to vote on amnesty? And that decision will be, I think, pull our conference apart, and it pits Republicans against Republicans.
I want to move on. It's not entirely clear that what you'd be voting on is. We will move on right now because I want to get to Harvey funding, but it's not entirely clear that what you'd be voting on, since nothing's been presented, that it would be amnesty. It could be exactly what DACA is, which is not amnesty, which is just protections from deportation.
It's an unconstitutional amnesty. I mean, amnesty is a pardon for immigration law breakers, and in this country, it's coupled with the reward of
amnesty,
the objective
though, as
of
you
their
well know,
crime.
is a very loaded term. Very loaded term. By definition, though, it was just legal protection from being deported. It wasn't. They were not being given amnesty to be citizens. They
got the objective of their crime, to live in America without fear of the law being applied to them, and on top of that, they got a work permit.
Let me ask you.
I don't think that's stretching that to call that amnesty. It's not a political definition. It's a legal one.
Congressman, Congressman, the control room's talking to me. Stand by with me, Congressman. We're getting some video in
Thank
from
you very much. We have
meeting with President Trump and congressional leaders. Listen.
We have a lot to discuss, including the fact that there's a new and seems to be record-breaking hurricane heading right toward Florida and Puerto Rico and other places. We'll see what happens. We'll know in a very short period of time, but it looks like it could be something that will be not good. Believe me, not good. We have many, many things that are on the plate. Hopefully we can solve them in a rational way, and maybe we won't be able to. We'll probably know pretty much at the end of this meeting or the meetings that we'll be having over a short period of time. But our country has a lot of great assets, and we have some liabilities that we have to work out. So we'll see if we can do that. I appreciate everybody being here. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Nancy, Chuck. Appreciate it very much. And thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, are you willing to do a debt ceiling that's connected with Harvey funding?
Thanks, guys.
We'll see. No second thoughts.
Mr. President, you confident Congress can do something for DACA recipients?
I hope they do. I certainly hope they do.
I think what I heard at the very end is you hope Congress does something for DACA recipients, and the president says, I hope they do, I hope they do. I believe that's what he heard at the tail end. It's always difficult to hear. Let me bring back in, and hopefully you're still with me, Congressman. I appreciate it. One of the things that the president was also talking about, let's transition over to Harvey, because you're about to take a vote on Harvey funding. One of the things he was always talking about is obviously the hurricane barreling towards the United States, Hurricane Irma. You've got Hurricane Harvey funding coming up for a vote in the House very shortly. Are you going to be able to support that?
Yes, I don't have hesitation about that. It's $7.8 billion, I believe, is the number we will see in a few minutes here on the floor of the House. That's entirely reasonable for the opening of this, to fill some of the gaps in the funding that FEMA actually has. If you'll remember, the first ask after Katrina in New Orleans, now 12 years ago, was $10.5 billion. I voted for that first $10.5 billion. FEMA's got to have the resources to function, and especially with another hurricane bearing down on Florida, we need to at least get this out up front. We will see multiple supplemental requests in the aftermath of these hurricanes.
And Congressman, what if it comes back? What if it comes back from the Senate with tied to an increase to the debt ceiling? Will you be able to sign on to that?
No, it depends on how long the increase in the debt ceiling is set for. I mean, if they set it so that it's kind of open-ended, wouldn't be favorable to that. If it's a short-term debt ceiling increase, we know that that's going to happen.
That's what Democrats are proposing.
3 months. I'd be fine with 3 months.
Even though Paul Ryan calls that ridiculous?
He did. I didn't know that. I don't know how long he wants to make it, but there's going to be a debt ceiling increase. I do think that that's a foregone conclusion here. And if I could get something conservative attached to that and get some leverage over it, I'd be looking at that. But I don't think the juice is worth the squeeze in this scenario that we have. We have Obamacare that needs to be repealed. We've got DACA thrown up in front of us. We've got a hurricane that's just gotten over in Texas and one bearing in on Florida. I don't think it's the time to have a fight over that, over whether it's a 1 month or a 3 month extension.